Hello and welcome to day 12 of Romance Yourself. Today we have a yin practice all about curating healthy boundaries. In Yin Yoga, there is a principle that we try to follow whenever we come into a posture to help us be able to sustain the posture for the duration of time intended for us to hold it. We call this playing our edge. So when you come into a posture, you want to come into that posture to your edge to the degree that you feel safe and comfortable while also feeling some sensation without feeling any pain. Whenever you enter into a pose at your edge, you are more likely to be able to find space for softness, and then there's room for that edge to shift forward a little bit, usually, as you hold the posture for the duration of time. Whenever we bring this idea of having an edge or having a boundary into our lives, we're more so talking about parameters in which we want to enter into a honest and consensual relationship with another person or even ourselves, like we're focusing on in this journey. Boundaries, while they do usually involve another person, they also require that they are upheld by the boundary setter, aka us. And boundaries are not a hard stop, right? They are not a wall that is impenetrable. I like to think of boundaries as doorways through which a relationship can be entered into. With this in mind, I'm offering you the affirmation for class today that is, I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary that I set. I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary that I set. And so with all of that said, once again, this is a yin practice. So if you have your props, go ahead and grab them. If you do not have the traditional yoga props, you're more than welcome to grab your blankets and your pillows, and we'll get started right away in a supported fish with butterfly legs. So you'll want to grab your pillow or your bolster. If you don't have a bolster, you can also do this with blocks underneath your back. And you're going to bring that bolster to the top of your mat, going long ways. And you'll turn yourself around, making sure that the edge of your bolster is coming right up to your lower back. And then lower your back down onto that prop. So again, this can be done with a pillow, maybe a few pillows if you want more of a lift. It can be done with some stacked blankets, and it can also be done with blocks on an even height underneath your shoulder blades and underneath the back of your head. And then we'll also get a little bit into the hips to start. Soles of your feet come together, let the knees go apart from one another. And once again here, if you're feeling a lot of pulling through your inner thighs and your groin, the inner knees, bring blocks or pillows or blankets underneath the legs for support. Otherwise, letting gravity do the work for you, letting your arms rest down beside you, and starting to soften into your first pose. Internally repeat to yourself your affirmation. I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary that I set. Noticing how those words land for you and how they make you feel. And take another breath in here. Exhale with a sigh. Bring your hands underneath your thighs to help close your legs like a book. Soles of your feet come back to the mat. Take a pause to notice how your lower body feels. And then you'll just roll over to one side off of your prop. Use your top hand on the earth in front of you to help you come up. And you can move the bolster out of the way for now. And we'll meet in tabletop pose. Hands come underneath your shoulders, knees come underneath your hips, and toe squat is our next pose. So tucking your toes under, start to send your hips back towards your heels. And you might even reach back with your hands and make sure that your little pinky toe is curled under. And for some people, their edge is right here with the hands on the earth in front. And this way you can come up off of your heels at any point if you need to, if the pressure in your feet is too intense. If you feel that you would like a little bit more sensation, go ahead and walk your hands up onto your thighs. This is where the use of blocks comes in handy. So you can bring your blocks underneath your hands, next to your hips, and you are, for the most part, letting the weight sink into your feet, letting the weight of your body sink back a little bit. But also, if this at any point becomes too intense, you can always press down into the blocks here next to your hips and manage the amount of pressure that's going into the feet. And we're not here for too terribly long. We have to hold yin postures for about 2 minutes to affect the fascia. And there's a lot of fascia in your body, and all of it also is connected to your feet. And so this makes this pose super beneficial, but also it makes it a great place for you to discern where your edge is, where your boundary is, and how to have a healthy relationship with that boundary within yourself. And so we'll breathe here, closing the eyes, coming to a place of inner stillness and softness. And use your breath and your affirmation to anchor your mind. Internally repeat to yourself, I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary that I set. Take one more breath in here. And exhale. If you had the blocks under the hands, just move them out of the way towards the top of your mat. Bring your hands forward and untuck the toes. Start to kind of pitter-pat your feet onto your mat, pointing the toes back, stretching out through the ankles. And we'll actually just take a brief little ankle stretch here to counter stretch. So you're going to sit back onto your heels again. This might already be enough for you, but if you'd like, you can bring your hands behind you and then try to lift your knees away from the earth. We're just here for 3 breaths. And exhale, release. If you have a blanket, go ahead and bring it underneath your knees. And our next pose will be dragon. For dragon pose, you're going to come into a tabletop pose and grab your blocks if you have them, bring them underneath your hands on maybe they're medium level to start. And you're going to step your left foot to the outside of that left block and left hand and start to let your hips sink forward and down. You may find that you need to inch your foot forward and inch the blocks forward a little bit as you sink the hips forward and down. And you want to look for the stacking of your left knee over your left ankle. The toes may point out at a slight angle here. Letting gravity do the work for you. Soften into your shoulders. Let the stacking of your arm bones do the supporting of the upper body. And let your head be heavy. Once again, this is a great pose to play around with where your edge is and to contemplate the way that you set boundaries and uphold boundaries in your life. Internally repeat your affirmation when you're ready. I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary I set. Inhale, start to lift your head. And from here, we're going to come to swan pose. So you might move the blocks just forward slightly and bring your hands down to your mat. And then start to heel toe your left foot over to the right side of your mat. And let your left knee come down behind your left wrist. You may need to walk your right knee back. You might need to even pull your left heel closer in towards you. And then for me, I like to have one block underneath my rib cage and the other block underneath my head as I lower down to my forearms. You may find that having your forearms on the blocks feels more comfortable to you. Just take a few breaths to play around and find where you can soften here. Take one more breath in your swan. And exhale, start to rise up onto your hands. Walk that right knee in a little bit so that you can slide the left knee back into your tabletop pose. You may like to take some hip circles. Some people also like to extend that left leg back, stretching out through the back of the leg. Really just any movement or any posture that allows you to release. But when you're ready, we'll come into those same two poses on the right side. So this time, as you bring your blocks under your hands, you're going to step your right foot to the outside of the blocks. Once again, maybe inching your right foot and your hands with the blocks forward. You could also tuck your left toes and pick that left knee up, shift it back a little bit, and then letting the hips sink forward and down, softening into your shoulders and your neck, and remaining here for a little bit of time as you repeat your affirmation. I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary I set. Inhale, start to lift your head. You're going to make your way into that swan pose, moving your blocks a little bit forward, bring your hands down, walk your right foot over to the left side of your mat. And as you lower that right knee down, maybe pulling the heel in a little bit closer to your groin, maybe walking your left knee back, and then finding how you want to situate your upper body, either having those blocks underneath your arms somehow or using them as I am as a little rest for your chest and your head. Soften into this pose. Come back to your breath. Take another breath in, start to lift your head, walk up onto your hands. This time to release, you can move your blocks out of the way. Send your weight over to your right hip and then swing the left leg around, and we'll meet in a seat at the center of your mat. Go ahead and sit up on your blanket or your pillow or your bolster. I'm going to use my blanket, just folding it over on itself one more time so I have that long rectangle shape. We'll finish everything off with a dragonfly fold. So you're going to send your legs as wide as is comfortable to you. Let the pelvis rock forward slightly. Bring your hands onto blocks or another pillow or a bolster, and then lean in to this fold. Everything in the lower body is soft. And you're just letting gravity do the work for you here. One last time, using your affirmation. I give myself the chance to thrive with every boundary I set. Inhale, come onto your hands. Exhale, press down, raise up away from the floor, back to upright. You can move your blocks out of the way and use your hands underneath your knees to help bend the legs in again, coming to a comfortable seat to close everything off. Closing your eyes when you're ready. Noticing how you feel, noticing the effect of your practice on you today. Reflecting on your affirmation. And remind yourself to set healthy boundaries so that you have a doorway through which to enter into relationships. With this in mind, we'll close by bringing the palms together in front of the heart and then bowing our heads towards our hands and saying, Namaste. Thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for allowing me to be your guide and for entering into this relationship of student and teacher with me, as well as the relationship of student and teacher within yourself. We are all our own teacher. Tomorrow is the second to last day before the end of our journey together. I hope that you are feeling well. I hope that this journey is treating you well. And as always, I encourage you to stay on your mat a little longer today if that's possible and to practice the affirmation meditation. Otherwise, I will see you on the mat tomorrow. Namaste.